Es war Jahresversammlung von Berkshire Hathaway und Warren Buffett, Investmentlegende, stand seinen Aktionären Rede und Antwort, wie wir es gewohnt waren, leider diesmal ohne Charlie. Charlie ist ja leider vor kurzem verstorben. Ich habe euch 2 Schnipsel mitgebracht. Der erste Schnipsel dreht sich um die Frage, warum verkauft Warren Buffett oder genau gesagt Berkshire Apple-Aktien, und zwar im großen Stil und jetzt schon 2 Quartale hintereinander. Über 10% der Aktien wurden im ersten Quartal 2024 abgestoßen. Und interessant fand ich die Antwort, weil er es nicht am Unternehmen festmacht, sondern an der Gesamtsituation der Welt. Aber hört mal selber rein. Und dann die zweite Frage dreht sich um Tesla. Genau gesagt Tesla Full Self-Driving, also autonomes Fahren. Und wie sieht er eigentlich diese Technologie, besonders vor dem Hintergrund, dass er sehr stark in Versicherungsunternehmen investiert ist? Auch sehr interessant. Viel Spaß damit.
Let's start just given what you mentioned. There was some news that came out in the 10Q this morning. It shows that Berkshire sold another 115 million shares of Apple in this last quarter. That's Berkshire's largest holding. And I think in that vein, we'll start with a question from Sherman Lamb. He is a 27-year-old Berkshire Hathaway Class B shareholder from Malaysia. And he asks, last year, you mentioned Coca-Cola and American Express being Berkshire's 2 long-duration partial ownership positions, and you spent some time talking about the virtues of both these wonderful businesses in your recent shareholder letter. I noticed that you have excluded Apple from this group of businesses. Have you or your investment manager's views of the economics of Apple's business or its attractiveness as an investment changed since Berkshire first invested in 2016?
No, I would, but we have sold shares, and I would say that at the end of the year, I would think it extremely likely that Apple is the largest common stock holding we have now. One interesting thing is that Charlie and I looked at common stocks or marketable equities or the things that people love to look at as being businesses. And so when we own a Dairy Queen or we own whatever it may be, we look at that as a business. And when we own Coca-Cola or American Express or Apple, we look at that as a business. Now, we can buy really wonderful companies in the market as businesses. We can't buy all of them. All of their shares, we can't buy 90% or 80% or anything like that. But when we look at Coca-Cola and American Express and Apple, we look at them as businesses. Now, there's differences in tax factors, there's difference in managerial responsibility, a whole bunch of things. But in terms of deploying your money, we always look at every stock as a business. And we have no attempt made to predict markets. We have no attempt made to pick stocks. I went through many, many years doing the wrong thing. I got interested in stocks very early, and I was fascinated by them. And I wasn't wasting my time because I was reading every book possible and everything else. But finally, I picked up a copy of The Intelligent Investor in Lincoln, and there was a few sentences in there that said much more eloquently than I can say it. But if you look at stocks as a business and treat the market as something that doesn't tell you, isn't there to instruct you, but it's there to serve you, you'll do a lot better over time than if you try to take charts and listen to people talk about moving averages and look at the Fed pronouncements and all of that sort of thing. And so that made a lot of sense to me then. And the way I've been allowed to deploy it, and Charlie and I talked about this, of course, constantly, it's changed over the years as the amount of capital we have and has changed and all of that. But the basic principle was laid out by Ben Graham in that book, which I picked up for a couple of dollars, and which basically said to me, "You've been wasting your time now, but maybe you can use what you learned or been reading about and put it to better use." And then Charlie came along and told me how to put it to even better use. And that's sort of the story of why we own American Express, which is a wonderful business. We own Coca-Cola, which is a wonderful business. And we own Apple, which is an even better business. And we will own, unless something really extraordinary happens, we will own Apple and American Express and Coca-Cola when Greg takes over this place. It's such a simple approach that it's almost deceptive. Most things, if you keep working harder and harder at it, you learn a little more math or you learn a little more physics. But investments, you don't really have to do that. You really have to have your mindset properly. So we will end up, unless something dramatically happens that really changes capital allocation, a strategy, and we will have Apple as our largest investment, but I don't mind at all, under current conditions, building the cash position. I think when I look at the alternative of what's available in the equity markets, and I look at the composition of what's going on in the world, we find it quite attractive.
Wo wir schon bei Warren Buffett sind und einem seiner Lieblingsunternehmen, American Express, will ich ganz kurz über die American Express Platinum-Karte sprechen, die ich seit 5 Jahren besitze. Die Karte ist nicht umsonst, aber aus meiner Sicht rechtfertigen die Vorteile dieser Karte die Kosten, und deswegen bin ich seit 5 Jahren hier dran. Es sind 3 große Gründe, die aus meiner Sicht für diese Karte sprechen. Der erste Grund sind die ganzen Benefits, die mit dieser Karte kommen. Das heißt, du kannst kostenlos in Flughafen-VIP-Lounges rein, kannst da entspannt auf deinen Flug warten. Du bekommst Guthaben für Netflix und Co., Guthaben für Online-Shops, Guthaben für Luxusrestaurants. Also es ist ein ziemlich attraktives Paket, und wenn man das wirklich vollumfänglich nutzt, kann man jedenfalls einen signifikanten Teil der Kosten für diese Karte schon mal kompensieren. Zweiter Grund: zinsfreier Zahlungsaufschub. Wenn ich zum Beispiel eine große Anschaffung mache, eine Rolex-Uhr für 10.000, 15.000 Euro kaufe, kann ich problemlos hier machen, dann habe ich, wenn ich den Kauf richtig time, 6 Wochen zinsfreien Zahlungsaufschub, weil eben keine Zinsen anfallen für den Saldo dieser Karte. Und das kann in vielen Umständen wirklich sehr nützlich sein. Und der dritte Punkt ist natürlich das Punkteprogramm. Das heißt, mit jedem Umsatz auf dieser Karte sammelt ihr Punkte. Wenn ihr den Turbo aktiviert habt, nochmal 50% obendrauf. Und diese Punkte tauscht ihr dann idealerweise in Prämienflüge. Business Class, First Class, das ist jedenfalls das, wo ihr am meisten für diese Punkte bekommt. Und wenn ihr euch jetzt für diese Karte entscheidet, bekommt ihr direkt mal 65.000 American Express Punkte geschenkt. Das gilt nur für ganz kurze Zeit. Und man sagt, okay, was ist das wert, wenn man annimmt, und das ist sehr konservativ gerechnet, dass ein Punkt 1,5 Cent als Gegenwert hat, wenn man ihn für Flüge einsetzt, dann bekommt ihr fast 1.000 Euro Flugguthaben gutgeschrieben, wenn ihr euch für diese Karte entscheidet. Also, klickt mal auf den Link unter diesem Video und werdet Mitglied in der American Express Platinum Mitgliedschaft.
As a Berkshire and Tesla shareholder, I would like to hear your thoughts on the potential financial effects to Geico, assuming Elon Musk delivers on his fully autonomous driving goal. On Tesla's most recent earnings call, Elon said if you've got at scale a statistically significant amount of data that shows conclusively that the autonomous car has, let's say, half the accident rate of a human-driven car, I think that's difficult to ignore. Assuming Elon succeeds in reducing accidents by 50% versus human drivers, wouldn't auto insurance rates fall to reflect the reduced underwriting risk, thereby adversely impacting Geico's revenues and float and perhaps margins too?
Well, yeah, well, let's just take the extreme example. Let's say there are only going to be 3 accidents in the United States next year for some crazy reason that anything that reduces accidents is going to reduce costs, but that's been harder to do than people have done before. But obviously, if it really happens, the figures will show it, and our data will show it, and the prices will come down. There have been a lot of people talk about doing that in the past. I mean, General Motors used to be very big in the insurance business, and when Uber first started, they used some firm which now is, I think, Ajit confirmed they're close to bankruptcy now, aren't they? Because of taking things on at the wrong prices. Mm-hmm. Is that true? Yeah. Insurance always looks easier than it is, and it's so much fun because you get the money at the start, and then you find out whether you've done something stupid later on. But it's a very tempting business when somebody hands you money and you hand them a little piece of paper. But really knowing whether if accidents get reduced 50%, it's going to be good for society, and it's going to be bad for insurance companies' volume. But good for society is what we're looking for. So far, this you might find kind of interesting. I mean, the number of people killed per 100 million passenger miles driven. I think it actually when I was young, it was like 15, but even post-World War II, it only fell to like 7 or thereabouts. And Ralph Nader probably has done more for the American consumer than just about anybody in history, because that 7 or 6 has now come down to under 2, and I don't think it would have come down that way without him. There have been some kind of fluke figures of what people did during the pandemic, which are quite interesting because they didn't drive immediately. They didn't drive as many miles, but they drove more dangerously, didn't they? Yep. Is that right, Ajit?
Yep. Yeah. So the point I want to make in terms of Tesla and the fact that they feel that because of their technology, the number of accidents do come down. And that is certainly provable. But I think what needs to be factored in as well is the repair cost of each one of these accidents has skyrocketed. So if you multiply the number of accidents times the cost of each accident, I'm not sure that total number has come down as much as Tesla would like us to believe. Tesla has been toying with the idea of writing insurance directly or indirectly, and so far it hasn't really sort of been much of a success. Time will tell, but I think automation just shifts a lot of the expense from the operator to the equipment provider.